The real Ted Cruz is supported by the Bush family. Did you know any of this? Did you know that Neil Bush, the son of President H.W. Bush, who defrauded U.S. taxpayers out of $1.5 billion in the SNL scam, and later lobbied for the Chinese government, has formally endorsed Senator Ted Cruz for president? This is a real one. Now, what does that matter? Anyone can endorse anybody. Well, there's much more to it than that. The connections between Ted Cruz and the Bush family are very deep. Ted Cruz was George W.'s brain when he ran for president. Did you know that? Did you know that Ted Cruz? Did you know that Ted Cruz was George W.'s brain when he ran for president? How could you not know this? How could you buy this cover story about Constitution? Constitution. Ted Cruz wrote the Constitution. He's the only one who knows what it is. Ted was a top policy advisor for George W. Bush. He was trying to get a job as Solicitor General, but settled for a job in the Federal Trade Commission. Ted Cruz is a Bushman with deep ties to the political and financial establishment. Ted and his wife Heidi brag about being the first Bush marriage. You see, they met as Bush staffers. Did you know that? Mr. Independent, Mr. Constitution. Did you know they met while working for George Bush? You don't know any of this. You don't know how many people who support him worked in the government and now claim they're anti-government. How could you people be so gullible? Heidi Cruz became a top deputy to U.S. Trade Rep Robert Zoellick, who used Heidi's membership in the CFR, Council on Foreign Relations, and her job at GS Goldman Sachs, and the bailed-out bank then loaned Cruz $1 million secretly to finance his Senate race. Ted Cruz then borrowed an undisclosed $1 million loan from Citicorp. The fact of the matter is, Cruz is not who he appears to be. He is not an outsider. He is an insider. He is a Bush insider. He is the ultimate insider. He's a former top Bush 41 policy aide and globalist. He is an Ivy Leaguer. He's an establishment insider because he is a puppet of the Republican establishment itself. That is why he is attacking Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is attached to no one. In plain English, did you understand what I said to you?
Donald does well with voters who have relatively low information, who are not that engaged and who are angry, and they see him as an angry voice.
Oh, you're full of it, you fool.
Where we're beating him is when voters get more engaged and they get more informed. When they inform themselves, they realize his record. He's what they're angry at. He is the corruption, and if you want someone to stand up to Washington, the only one who hadn't doing so in this race is me.
Ted Cruz is a phony through and through. I'm not going to sit on the fence about him anymore. I would not support him. And I'll tell you something else. I'll say it to you right now. If Ted Cruz wins, I'm not voting for him. He's part of the establishment. He is part of the government itself. He's tied right into everything he claims he opposes. Read about it. What, I'm not making this up? What do you want me to do, make up stories for you about how wonderful he is and he's a true constitutionalist? None of it is true. He is a member of the Bush cabal, period.